Cead Fáilte. Welcome back to another episode of Crann Short Stories and Poetry. I'm Terrance Ó Domhnaill, your village scéalaí, returning again this week with more stories and poems from authors around the world. This week I have 2 stories and 3 poems for everyone. My first fiction story is from a new writer I found, then another episode of The Gravediggers of Orpheus. The 3 poems I bring are written to make one think. The last 2 about the war in Palestine are a bit harsh. One is from an Australian woman who rages against imperialism on her Substack page. My last one is from another activist who lives in the north of Ireland. I will do my best to record this poem in her own voice, as she posted a video of herself reading her poem on her Substack page. Her voice is so much better than mine when it comes to this kind of poem, and I will add their page to the links in the newsletters later today. So gather around once more, and let me read to you under the shade of the Crann, the Tree of Life. So my first story is entitled Songbirds. Let's Scream into the Void. Special fiction short story by C.R. And he or she published this in Promptly Written. Feathers. There were feathers, falling from the skies in rampant droves for hours on end, then cutting off their flurry drift, abrupt as waking mid-dream. Blizzards of the stuff covering whole towns and the debris of ghostly pillow fights, the wars of broken mattresses. And humans did what humans do. They memed, made videos, added sound effects. They scoffed, they laughed, they mocked. They reveled, they enjoyed, they worshipped. Some despaired, some wept, some prayed. But there were feathers. Long and short, broad and narrow, broad and white, and black and gray and blue, beautiful everywhere. Those early incidents were big news. Flocking journalists and reporters and YouTubers and TikTokers from all over clamoring for vox pops and perfect shots, salivating scoops. The world's media wanted answers. The public did too. Explanations were sought and fought and lost and found. People argued and denied and fell down rabbit holes. Scientists and governments and environmentalists and ornithologists rushed through analysis and found simply feathers. Many different species of bird, no clear origin point, no hows, no whys, just feathers. Then humans did what humans do. They got used to it. They accepted something that should never have been accepted, something which should forever have remained a burning question, an existential problem, a fire in the family home. But humans have to keep going, and the best way to do that is convince yourself that everything is fine. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. There's always some stragglers who don't quite get the message. Some people got a very different message, one that could not be ignored. Feathers. The feathers had been the beginning, and they were beautiful, and they were terrible, and they were eerie, and they were wrong. He didn't get used to them. Didn't treat this wonderful, terrible phenomenon as something normal and mundane. He couldn't, because he could hear the birdsong. It wasn't like normal birdsong. It was pure, less individual, creepier almost, more otherworldly, like the birds who sang, loud they sing so loudly, were a dawn chorus with a single hive brain. All had the same hymn sheet to sing from, perhaps. Only a few people could hear it, the birdsong, and they did what humans do. They found each other. They gathered at the bottom of the internet, obscure threads and comments on videos. Wait, you hear it too? Why can't other people? The same stories, the same feelings, the same questions, unity and otherness. No one had any answers. There were feathers. There was birdsong. There was birdsong, and those who heard it couldn't stop hearing it. It grew in volume and duration. It didn't stop. It drowned out the world. Eventually, all they could hear was those pure, ethereal tones, and still there were more feathers. And he, like the others, those lonely souls on threads and servers, clinging desperately together in the face of the unknown, couldn't hear anything else, not anymore. It was just birdsong, loud, so very, very loud, swamping every thought in his head, making conversation impossible, singing, shrieking, screaming. There was birdsong, there was birdsong, there was birdsong, there was nothing but birdsong. They had to do something, anything, because they couldn't rest anymore, couldn't sleep anymore, trapped in a waking dream nightmare of feathers and birdsong. Cacophonous noise only they could hear, loud. It was birdsong, and he lost his head somewhere along the way. It's hard to blame him, given the circumstances. But who was he? What was his name? The one who broke through and took this offline, drifted it out of the void and into the real. Who can we point to as the spark to this fire, our burning match? It could have been any of them. Someone said so-and-so, someone said such and such. No one could agree. Can anyone ever agree? Detail lost in a gallon of internet lore and the knotwork of creepypastas, lost media, left unarchived amongst the tidal wave of digital detritus, the debris of the cyberbreeze. The media and hashtags called them songbirds. Someone said it was a title he'd written at the top of one of his threads. One of those early pleas to avoid to please. Someone, listen, is anyone even out there? But no one really knows that that's true. Wherever it came from, the name stuck. And now they had a target on their backs, those songbirds. Because those free of the birdsong didn't like that the birds wouldn't be quiet. Didn't like this thought that there was something weird, something strange, something so huge and monumental it would change their lives forever, tear apart their carefully constructed versions of reality. And then there was no turning back. Those who couldn't hear the birdsong did what humans do. They shot the messengers. The songbirds were dangerous, they said, an internet cult, a social contagion, a corruption coming for you and your children, spreading their lies about the feathers, spreading their delusions about the birdsong. The songbirds were sinister. The songbirds had to be stopped. They didn't understand the songbirds, and narrow minds make narrow choices. He had lost his head, couldn't take the birdsong anymore, tried to stop it by screaming louder and louder. So loud, drowning out the avian warnings in all their minds, woodpeckering their skulls. He shouted so loudly into the void that it broke through, bled through, crashed through, smashed through into the real. The void bubble ruptured, shattered, popped. The songbirds were only trying to explain, only trying to show the world that something wasn't right, that something was badly, frighteningly wrong. The world had broken, and somehow, surely someone should fix it, right? They were only trying to explain. He was only trying to explain, in that video, that infamous video. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody. He was just trying. He was trying to change the world so that the world could keep on turning, adapt or die, just not the ostrich seeing kind of adaptation that the deniers wanted. And so, that video, that very real video, the raw, hurt video, that scream into the night, a warning, a calling, a question to the void. Why? Just why? Finding the full video was becoming nigh impossible. It had been scrubbed from most mainstream sites, but there are still clips here and there, showing close-ups of his face, and in the motion of the feathers falling, in the dark corners of the net, there might be more, but no one really needs to see it a second time, do they? Surely once was enough. There were feathers, there was birdsong, and no matter how much they want to stop it, it wouldn't. The world covered in layers of feathers. Maybe he found peace beyond the birdsong. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe he's not. How would we even know? The footage is too... Well, you saw it. You can't have missed it. So no one can say for sure what happened there at the end, with the lights and the feathers and the arrival of that second figure in the frame. We don't even know his name, what country he was from, anything beyond the barest details of his appearance. A silhouette, a distorted feature here or there, could be anyone. So he could have woken up the next morning, right as rain, ready for whatever comes next. Maybe. Unlikely, though. You saw the video. And the press and the social still seem, to care more about persecuting songbirds than figuring out what's going on. They care more about shutting down the prophets of doom than they do about the doom itself. That's the thing about doomsday. It doesn't much care what you think. It comes anyway. So, my songbirds, we shall follow where he led us. Ready yourselves, press record, and scream your heart into the void, loud enough to wake the dead. Maybe we can break through. Who knows? Time to lose our heads. My second story, Gravediggers of Orpheus, number 7 by Catherine Elaine. The tall green giant stomped through the hallways of the gravedigger's ship, Vulture 05, with his heavy steps clinking on the metal floor. Captain Derrick met him on the bridge. He had seen these creatures before. Judging by his size and the long black hair, this merblard was an adult male. The merblard gave a short nod of greeting. Derrick nodded back. "Greetings. I'm Captain Derrick O'Connell. What brings a merblard to my vessel?" "I had the impression you don't usually like being around my race," Derrick said, observing every move the giant made. Though unarmed, he could still break a human spine without much effort. Derrick and his crew around him held their guns at ready. "Death makes a proud merblard humble," the green giant growled in a low voice. "Your government ghouls attacked my village 2 days ago, for no reason. We are not with the rebels." Derrick could hear the bitterness in the merblard's voice. "I'm very sorry to hear that. How can we help you?" "You are grave diggers. The soil is frozen. We can't bury our dead. Too many. We need help." Begging humans for help was obviously not something the merblard would do willingly. He lowered his sight in shame. Derrick stood thinking. Strange business. The dispatch should have informed them of a large number of dead civilians around, but the dispatch had gone awful quiet since they'd crashed. Barely gave them any information. "All right, but you know our priority is dead humans. We are instructed to cremate the corpses of other races," Derrick said. "No, please, no burning. Bury with dignity, please." The merblard's low voice hummed with quiet despair. Captain Derrick looked around at his crew. He thought intensely. If he wanted to help Sophie, he couldn't waste his time burying dead merblards. He sighed. "We'll see what we can do." "How many dead units are we talking about?" 55, the merblard grunted. Joe from the crew gave a long whistle. "All right, give us the coordinates. We'll get the excavation bots ready and head out." "Thank you," the giant grunted, staring down at the metal floor. "What's your name?" Derrick asked, just before the merblard had turned to leave. "Ake," he pronounced, with a guttural sound Derrick did not risk to repeat. "Did you lose somebody in the attack?" Derrick tried to be kind. The merblard's every move was slow and heavy, as if an invisible burden was pressing on him. "My mate, my youngling," the merblard hummed, but then a strange sound broke from his mouth, although he tried hard to suppress it. Though it was an eerie noise to human ears, Derrick understood perfectly it was the sound of pain and grief. "We'll do what we can to bury them with dignity," Derrick said. The merblard gave a nod and followed Joe to exit the ship. Derrick went straight to the survivor's cabin. Though his hand shook nervously as he knocked on the door, he was determined to enter. "Come in," Sophie said. Derrick hurried to Anouk's cradle, took the baby in his arms, and held her in silence for a couple of minutes. "Is everything all right, Captain?" Sophie stared at him nervously. "Yes, Derrick stuttered. He couldn't stand looking into her warm brown eyes. He didn't know how to tell her about the delay." She came closer, cupped his face, and made him look at her. "I don't believe you'll get the government's microchip removed from my head before the ghouls find me. I don't want to waste time. I like you, Captain." Now she was the one lowering her sight more than I should. Sophie leaned closer and gave him a kiss on the cheek. "So I'm going to take a break here before we get into the poetry, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes, and we'll read these 3 poems. As I said before, they can be construed a bit controversial, so I'll kind of give you fair warning. I'll be back in a little bit." During this break, I wish to ask for a donation of any amount to help me keep this podcast going. I'm fine with whatever you can afford, using whatever currency you want. I have set up a donation tab on the Crann Stories and Poetry webpage at rss.com and a donation page on my website at www.crannabihah.com using PayPal for your security. Don't worry about the exchange rates, as PayPal takes care of that for us. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know in your social circles, as the writers I showcase in this podcast deserve all the exposure they can get. I created this podcast for them because I love to read their work, and I believe it should be shared with the whole world. Now I want to explain how to find my website. Since this show is audio only, just write down the website name from the podcast image showing here and search for it. Visitors finding the website for the first time will reach the welcome page to learn a little bit about what's inside. You'll see the homepage link at the bottom of the page. Click on it if you wish to enter my world. Once on the homepage, you'll see the menu bar at the top where there are links to the pages in the website. Feel free to look around all you want. If you should happen to buy one of my books, all the better. Thank you for your support. Welcome back. And I start off with this poem here. It's entitled Humbled by the World. And the author he goes by poet. Just that, poet. And so let me read this to you. From wealthier shores I journeyed wide to see the world beyond our pride. Where comfort cloaks our everyday, I learned there's more than words can say. We grumble here and ease we sleep, while others struggle, hunger deep. A recession here is just a name, yet elsewhere it's a burning flame. I met the souls with less to share, yet joy and love bloom everywhere. With empty hands their spirits gleam, their smiles outshine their richest dream. A watch it ticks to tell the time, a car just drives from clime to climb, yet we in comfort always crave for more, forgetting what we have. In distant lands with dreams they strive, their wisdom keeps their hope alive. No fools are they, just held in chains of limited past and harsh remains. Now seeing clear I understand, the wealth we hold is in our hands. Life's truest worth is not in things, but in the peace that wisdom brings. The world has shown through different eyes that joy is found where true love lies. In humble hearts, in simple ways, we find the light that guides our days. My next one is entitled Weep by Caitlin Johnstone. And again, this is off of her Substack page. Weep, sisters, for the child with the blown out skull, for the other child burned alive, for the limp, lifeless, tiny bodies, and the piles of unrecognizable carnage. Weep, brothers, for the cackling politicians, for the apathetic Westoids, for the human drones chanting, "We love Joe," and the DNC attendees covering their ears to avoid hearing the names of murdered children in Gaza. Weep for this fraud-faced civilization, this microplastic civilization, this OnlyFans civilization, this Moloch civilization Ginsburg wrote about in Howl, this civilization with enormous forced grins, our plates full of shredded children, and selfies with AOC and Tim Walz. Weep with careless abandon. Weep till the sobbings wrings you out like a sponge. Weep with head back, screaming sloppy and snot-nosed, ribcage splayed open to the heavens, and human heart beating unguarded and unhidden. There are no answers in the weeping. There are no solutions in the tears. There is only the release of something that needs release, in an act of sacred solidarity, in an act of unauthorized humanity, and the small private victory of having gone one more breath without being assimilated by the machine. Now, my last poem, as I said, is from the north of Ireland. It's entitled The Golden Calf, a reading of a new poem for Palestine. Then, of course, she has an introduction for people who want to check out her Substack page. And it's written by Ramona McCluskey from the north of Ireland. And that's all I'm going to tell you where she's from. And she's got a big note about where, all about herself here. And I'll let you read that if you choose. She's got a written version of the poem here, again, for everybody to read. But I want to do my best here to try and let her read this to you in her native brogue here from the north of Ireland. So, just hold tight for a minute here. Let me get things ready, and I'll do my best to get it to you in her voice.
Hi everyone. I would like to read you a new poem of mine. It's called The Golden Calf, and it's a poem about people who are hiding behind religion. So here goes. You call yourself a man of God, speaking of Amalek, an ancient foe, while safely sitting on your golden throne, the emperor of the artificial life you built for yourself under an iron dome. And underneath your feet lie shattered remains of many a bloodied bone. You call yourself a man of God, quoting the scripture and sending soldiers to slay, and then, amongst the rubble, to kneel down on the screaming wounded ground to pray. As if anything holy could ever be built on top of a lost limb and the remains of a 6-year-old little girl named Hind. Maybe, just maybe, you can magically conjure something sacred with the help of your god. But what god would find pleasure in carnage and smoke? Unless he's a demon of death, who reeks of concrete dust, brimstone, and scorched flesh. For that is who you serve, you, a child of darkness. You bow to an idol stitched out of bowel and tendon, a golden calf, his belly slashed open, with a moan and a shiver and a hellish stench, so its intestines poured down its legs into a pool of blood ankle deep. This is the memory that the world will keep. This is the memory that my mind has made. While mothers and fathers and babies fade. An eternal shade. An eternal shame. Free Palestine.
So I hope you enjoyed all of that. My biggest takeaway is it looks like I was able to pick up the audio from her Substack page. I think it's going to come through just fine. Like anything else, I will be publishing newsletters on my Substack page, on medium.com, and at my website at www.crann.com. And I will let you decide whether you think this went over well and what you think about the poems. Leave comments on the newsletters or on my website if you care to do that. I'm also going to post this to my Facebook page, Instagram, all the usual spots. So as I said, if you find it, you listen to it, let me know what you think. So that's all I have. I'll talk to you again next week. Sláinte. Guru Mahagat. Thank you for listening to the show today. I hope you enjoyed the variety of stories and poems again this week. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, and reply, as this goes a long way towards reaching more listeners around the world. As a Sean K, I hope you will allow me to continue delighting you with a story or poem here under the crown of beatha. Maybe they will bring you a smile, take you away from your troubles for a time. As I say goodbye this week, I wish to leave you with this Irish blessing as you go about your day. May your path rise up to meet you, and the sun warm your bonnet as you walk down the lane to the pub. May your friends or relations bring you a pint after you retell these stories and poems I give you here. Slán go fóill. Goodbye for now.